In a second-hand set of dimensions, on an astral plane that was never meant to fly, through wavering star mists, see the Great Atuin. Drifting onwards through space, atop the shell of the world's turtle, are 4 giant elephants, upon whose broad shoulders rests the Discworld. Welcome to Dining Table Discworld. We're reading through the Discworld novels and discussing them at our dining table. Be aware there will be spoilers for the current book and others in the series.
Hello! Welcome to Dining Table Discworld. I'm Dave.
I'm Kathy.
And today we are talking about Eric, which is the 9th Discworld novel by Terry Pratchett, published in 1990, and a little bit of an interesting one. So, Kathy, what's the synopsis?
Various parts of Ankh-Morpork are disturbed by the noise of running and frantic yelling. Rincewind, last seen lost in the dungeon dimensions, appears in a magic circle in an attic. He was summoned by Eric, an amateur genealogist who thinks that the wizard is a demon, who can grant him wealth, power, and the chance to meet the most beautiful woman on the disc. Rincewind discovers Eric is just a teenager, and also that clicking his fingers unexpectedly transports them both into a wild ride through myth and history. Meanwhile, the modernising Demon King, angry that Rincewind's appearance has foiled his plans, hunts them through hell.
Right then. So, our initial thoughts. You can tell it's not going to be... I say good when there's a bit of significant pause there.
Well, that's the kind of thing I can edit out later.
But not if I mention it.
I can edit that out too. Yeah, I owned this and I read it. The version I had wasn't the illustrated one.
Yes, so this was originally produced as an illustrated. So this is actually quite shorter than most of the Discworld novels, but it's in large format and got some quite brilliant illustrations by Josh Kirby. Certainly, I've got the original version, which is an ex-library copy from many years ago. Whereas I believe you read the later printing where it didn't have the illustrations.
Yeah, it was like a smaller paperback.
Yeah.
I know I read it and it didn't leave a huge impression on me.
No, I've got to say. I mean, I think we joked before setting up the recording that it's like, well, it's a bit forgettable, really. I think.
Yeah.
It's all right, but I don't think it's setting the Discworld on fire. No.
It just seems like a way to get Rincewind back from what seemed to be his end. And I heard another podcast recently which was saying that Sorcerer had also been written a little bit, maybe begrudgingly, because people really wanted another Rincewind one. And it almost seems a bit like that was Pratchett going, and then Rincewind was brave and heroic as he never had been, and...
Quick, write him out, and I don't need to worry about him again.
Maybe. Was it kind of a Reichenbach Falls thing?
Yeah.
And then I don't suppose people are literally following Sir Terry around the streets asking for Rincewind back, but maybe it was the equivalent of that.
Possibly. I mean,
people did that to Doyle. That's why you can't say the Holmes fandom now is any more crazy than it was at the time, because that's why he wrote that Holmes faked his death, because people just would not leave him alone until he wrote another Holmes book.
I mean, we've had 3 books since Sorcery, of which 2 are considered pillars of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly people were clamouring for Rincewind. I mean, it is. Yeah, I agree with you. This book feels entirely like it's how do we get Rincewind back from the Dungeon Dimensions, without just going, oh, he's back.
Yeah.
It gives him a little bit more. It's a little bit more than just.
Yeah, and I mean, it gives, because obviously Josh Kirby at that point had done all the covers, so maybe there was scope to be a bit like, let's do something more with him. Maybe Sir Terry didn't want to write a full novel because it is shorter. I mean,
it's got some great illustrations. If you like Josh Kirby's work, then it's well worth looking at. But it's not packed with illustrations. It's got some cool stuff.
I think I thought there was to be more illustrated, just because I hadn't seen the illustrations. But yeah, there's sort of like, I know obviously not chapters, but every so often there'll be like most of a page spread with just a bit of writing on, but then there'll be lots of pages with no illustrations at all.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of sort of wider scenes, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of thing that would normally be across a whole book jacket, but like more of them within the book. But yeah, I feel like Kirby's art I'm a little bit agnostic on. I think it's because, I mean, I think the covers of the book are why I didn't maybe pick up Discworld sooner, because it just looked like it was, I looked at it for, I'm a bit young for this.
Yeah.
I think some of the busty ladies didn't help
I mean,
with that.
he has a style. I mean,
in fairness,
grotesque a little bit in some respects.
Well, I don't think that's just his style, which is fair enough. And seeing a wider range of subjects in it, it's certainly interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's one bit with the kind of not quite Aztecs that, obviously the people in it aren't very fully clothed because it's supposed to be a sort of like jungle-y society, but that it seemed that everyone was fairly equally not particularly clothed.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, one thing I noticed is how much of his work, a lot of things in the background or in the foreground, but a lot of the scenery looks a bit like it's melting. There's a very kind of melted feel to a lot of it, like stuff's bleeding into other things, which I think is very good for depictions of like magic stuff, for depictions of hell, for like, dribbly candles and stuff like that in Eric's attic. I think it's quite funny. I don't know if this was a direction from Pratchett, that they've got them looking out of the wooden horse, but they're quite differently looking out of the ass of the wooden horse.
Well, I mean, that's how he describes it.
Yes, of course.
It's so that's
the belly.
but you've got the horse looking back with a shocked expression on its face.
Yes,
which is
what's happening there.
Yeah. So I mean, it certainly adds to. It certainly adds to the story. And I think the point is it's comic fantasy. That's the whole. That's what Pratchett's writing, and that's what Kirby's drawing. So it's absolutely that. So it's very distinctive, and it's kind of maybe a bit. It's bright and bombastic, but it's got this kind of like curling, melty sort of look to it. So, I mean, very much of it is Kirby and Pratchett just hand in hand at this point. Really is So okay, so. Yes, we're talking. This is a Rincewind story. This is very much we need to get him out of the dungeons dimensions. How do we do it? Or let's have him summoned by a demonologist,
like an amateur one.
Yeah.
Well, because I think the point is even on the cover and the paperback non-illustrated versions have this too. It says like Faust in like fancy text, and then it's like crossed out as though by biro and says Eric. So I'm assuming this is very much, based on the Christopher Marlowe play, which I've not read and don't know much about.
No, I've no idea either. So
I feel like this book is probably the bits I know about it, plus other stuff I've kind of gathered from references and things, and also that bit in Shakespeare in Love where they're like, is this the face that launched 1,000 ships and something the topless towers of Ilium? Because I did watch Shakespeare in Love quite a lot as a teenager. So that's all I know, because I'm one of those people who did English lit enough to be fairly okay with Shakespeare, but not go any further into any of the contemporaries. I mean, Christopher Marlowe sounded like an interesting guy.
Yeah, I've got even less grounding in I know Faust, pact with the demon, the devil. That's about as far as I go.
So obviously it features Helen of Troy, because you've got the famous "Is this the face that launched 1,000 ships?" line, which has led people to say, well, if the face of Helen can launch 1,000 ships, then a face that can launch one ship is a Millie Helen. So that's a measurement of beauty that I can't remember who came up with, but I'm pretty sure I read it or heard about it in a Natalie Haynes book or podcast.
It does sound like something Natalie Haynes would say, really.
Oh, no, I think somebody else came up with it, but she mentioned it. I can't think who it was now.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't kind of research this in any way. Otherwise, we'd have looked up the plot of Faust. But I think
hang on a second. We were supposed to do research for this.
Well, I guess just reading the book.
I mean, that's. I thought that was the baseline we were doing.
That's where we've got to.
Anyway, so yes, this is obviously based on Faust. So so the idea is that Rincewind is obviously coming back.
It seems to me like there was some sort of summoning thing, and he sort of got scooped out of Dungeon Dimensions and shoved to where a demon should go, which then is confirmed in the book is exactly what happened. Like a demon was supposed to go through and he just appeared. And so Eric thinks he's a demon, albeit a rather scraggly looking one.
Yes.
And then Rincewind like, sorry, I can't really do anything, you should just let me go. And Eric's like, oh, okay, real sad. And then Rincewind happens to click his fingers and suddenly the gold chest appears and, oh, actually...
Well, no, the luggage appears.
Oh, yes, of course, yes.
Yes. The point is, he's almost... So he's having a conversation, he's basically going, hang on a second, he has to obey certain rules because he's coming through a summoning circle, so he can't leave it.
Yeah, it's still a magic circle.
Yeah, and he's still bound by some... if you come into the world through a demonic summoning circle, you must go be a demon, just not the best one. And so he's almost getting Eric to let him go, and at that point the luggage appears because the luggage is following, and at this point Eric's certain that Rincewind is a demon, but then his mum calls him for dinner.
That was it, yes. And then that's when Rincewind realises that he's wearing a fake beard and is in fact, I think it says he's 13.
13 or 14 years old,
which struck me as quite young. But again, I guess it was written at a time...
We've had we've got lots... There's quite a few characters that, we've run, Esk...
it also felt a bit young.
Sorcerer and Sorcery... Coin.
I think Coin was even younger though.
Yes,
Coin was definitely a small child.
We've had lots of youngish kitching.
I think it just means for the kinds of stuff Eric seems interested in, he seems very young. But again, you've got the thing where when this was being written, it still wasn't, it wasn't that long ago. And when Pratchett was young, people were at that age not too far off of being seen as adults.
Also, 14-year-old boy. Yeah, it's not surprising with some things.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I didn't gel with this book particularly. It's
possibly it is a 14-year-old boy's fantasy.
Yeah. At least it kind of does the thing where it deflates it a bit, because.
So he asked for. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's fine.
He asked for the classic wishes. He wishes. I've got.
Presumably from Faust.
Yeah, presumably from Faust, because otherwise we're just making. He wants to be ruler of the world. He wants to meet the most beautiful woman in all history, and he wants to live forever.
Oh yeah, that was it.
So,
yeah, and of course Rincewind doesn't know how to do it. It's sort of funny because Rincewind's there going a bit like, no, I honestly am terrible at magic, and it's a bit like, yeah, that seems true, and then he's so close to believing him, and then Rincewind doesn't understand why whenever he clicks his fingers, something happens that means they get transported somewhere.
Only sometimes, though.
Well, okay, that's true, yeah.
When the plot demands.
Well, as we find out later, there literally is a plot that does demand this.
Yes. So yes, he does snap it. In a way, he's kind of doing it. Look, I can't do anything. Snaps his fingers, and they are suddenly teleported to above the disc.
Yes.
So this is him. This is basically being shown. This is how you can rule the world.
Well, I didn't really understand that. He's just looking at it.
Yes, but I think it's the he's ruler of the world, and it goes to this. It's also a bit. This one is a little bit odd. This is a faux Aztec society they end up.
Oh yeah.
Where he's.
Well, it's sort of that Central South American jungle type thing, but yeah, it's kind of Aztec and the stuff about how they only know how to write on stone things, and they have big circles, and they have big stone circles which they use for all sorts of things, but not as wheels. And again, that kind of goes to when Europeans came to various Southern and Central American civilizations. They thought they must not be very civilized, must not be very good, because they didn't have carts and wheels, but that was because the terrain didn't allow for it, and they travelled other ways, and they had these great message outposts and sort of systems.
Yes.
But it didn't look like civilization here, so therefore it couldn't be civilized.
Mountainous terrain doesn't actually go well for wheels.
Well, no, that's why chariots originally were very much an Egyptian thing, and they had them in Greece, but they didn't use them as much because, again, so mountainous that there's only some places it was useful to do that.
It's like horses versus cars when escaping nuclear holocaust.
Yes. Okay.
These, and obviously we have the classic god Quetzalcoatl.
Yes, Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who is obviously there out, yeah. And this one is they find a conquistador.
Well, because the joke with that because he's a Ponce de Quirm.
Yes. Because
the Fountain of Youth guy is Ponce de Leon, and the whole point is that's kind of from that mythology. But yeah, they just find. Although it's a bit weird because he's like because they don't really have Discworld Spain, do they? They just have Quirm, which is like mostly France, but maybe other bits of Europe if we're trying to bug them in Discworld to Round World equivalents.
Yeah. I mean, there's whole stuff that goes on.
Well, it's that slightly not great thing of a bit like, oh, and then the peoples of the jungle considered this European person who came in to be a god, and it's like, I don't think that's quite what happened.
Well, he was there because he was ruler of the world. He was in their prophecy. He was going to be ruler of the world, and then sacrificed. That's what they do.
The whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing's been played on the Aztec sacrifice stuff. But yeah, I know it felt a little bit uncomfortable, that bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing is not really. I mean, the thing about them having to write everything down,
like chisel it all.
That was kind of funny.
Yeah, it sort of feels like a load of kind of set pieces or jokes kind of put together. Because I didn't remember that bit so well. And then
I know at the end of the sequence, the god, the demon, Quetzalcoatl, turns up and is immediately squished by the luggage.
Yeah,
because he's actually tiny, which is that been reused a few times.
Because there's the thing that they see him as a god, but he's actually a demon, and the one quote which I got from that bit is the difference between demons and gods is basically the same as that between terrorists and freedom fighters, which again made me think of a bit in Good Omens, where I think Crowley and Aziraphale are comparing, the people. I think Aziraphale carefully uses the word freedom fighters, and then there's a bit where they talk about like, oh, who's okay with guns, and Crowley's surprised that Aziraphale's fine with it. And Aziraphale says, "Oh, there seems to lend weight to moral arguments in certain hands." And it's a bit like, and Crowley's like, "Oh, right, really?" And then they sort of share information about groups they've got on their payroll, and it's like at least 3 of them were the same. And Crowley's like, "Oh, sneaky bastards." So that reminds me of a Pratchett book I enjoy more. But yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of taking these, as you say, this teenage fantasy, these sort of grandiose wishes, and kind of, it's sort of that genie monkey's paw thing where the wishes didn't quite turn out right, but also kind of pricking at the whole idea of it. So, like, I mean, you rule the woman being over the disc, and then you're the ruler in a place where they sacrifice the ruler immediately. So, okay, and then you get more into the kind of more classical stuff. So the sort of Discworld version of Troy.
Yeah, so the next one is to meet the most beautiful woman in all history.
I notice he just said meet. Like, and then what happens? Are you going to win her over with your fake beard? Like, what's this?
Because he's a 14-year-old boy. You don't have the...
Yeah, but I'm just thinking the original, sort of Judgment of Paris thing is that Aphrodite says she will give him the most beautiful woman in the world. Like, it's like, well, it seems, I'll just meet her. Alright, well, like, hello, and then you'll leave. And, like, why you just meet, I know, it just reminds me of these people where they'll be a bit like, oh, I bet if I talk to somebody in person, if I get them on the phone rather than email, I'll convince them. It's like, no, please don't try and be persuasive. The decision has been made. And it's like, oh, I'll just meet her. It's like, and then you'll be a kid. And will you say anything?
Well, I think the point is he doesn't really know what to do beyond that.
Yeah, that's why I feel like you'd make your wish a bit, anyway. Or, okay, fine.
The point is it's not,
But, so the thing with that is that they arrive at source at the end of the siege, which if we're going by the same as Troy, is 10 years. And in that version of things, she's had like a load of, like, so it's Eleanor, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which obviously is related to Helen as a name. So yes, with Eleanor of sorts, it's been 10 years and she's made life there and she's settled down, she's had a load of kids. So she doesn't look like the, perhaps... I mean, first of all, does anyone look like the woman of myth anyway? But
well, no.
Even if she had, she doesn't so much now.
No.
And she's there with all her kids and...
Doesn't really want to leave.
No, again, she settled down there.
Yeah, she's got a life.
Yeah, whereas Helen, it was a bit more like she kind of had to be there because Aphrodite made her, and then there's sort of this thing where she's living in Troy, and some of the people seem to like her, but I think she's always kept a bit apart from everyone because she's also the reason their city's being besieged for a decade. So.
Yeah. Not all that popular for that.
It's odd with this though, because they also have, they have the wooden horse, because that's where they end up, Rincewind and Eric in the wooden horse, and then they meet the Labiolus,
Yes.
who's basically Odysseus or Ulysses equivalent, and then the whole point is that he's like Rincewind's ancestor. So I think it's kind of going with, he's cowardly enough to come up with something other than chucking yourself into battle. But it's kind of suggesting more cunning than I think is Rincewind's usual thing.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's supposed to be a military genius by the fact he's not. He just finds the easier options rather than,
or at least a sneaky option.
Yeah, rather than just throwing everyone. So yes, the horse. They basically have done social engineering on the staff of the palace to find out where the secret passages are. So they, while all chaos is breaking loose around, they invade through the secret passage rather than it's kind of like sensible stuff.
Yeah. The point is that everyone else is a big damn hero and throwing themselves, or at least their troops, at this war, and then he's actually there sort of getting results after a while and coming up with the sneaky stuff, which again I can kind of see that Rincewind's in a kind of story where it's like we're actually going to valorize people using discretion and retreating and maybe being not necessarily cowardly in that you're not sticking up for your principles or yourself, but more in a sort of like, well, we're not just going to fight, we're going to find means besides violence, and that feels quite reasonable. But it was odd because the whole thing with Troy is that the city's absolutely razed and everyone's, killed or taken. And in this, it sort of seems to be a bit like, there's fighting happening, but commerce and everything's just happening normally, and it's just the armies fighting. And I'm a bit like, it's odd because a lot of the stuff I read recently about Troy is stuff like Pat Barker or Natalie Haynes, and it's always, which is quite often from the female perspective. So there'll be a lot of stuff about the various women either in Troy or related to the Trojan War in some way. A lot of it's just horrifying and sad because they're all captured and they're going to be taken as slaves. They're goods now, like the women of Troy. And to see it be a bit like, everyone was just kind of getting on with their day, and then there'd be fights happening, you just move around it. It sounds a little bit like when there were, I don't know, I guess riots in Paris or somewhere, where it's a bit like, the fighting's happening, but we'll just go around. And I guess it's just because of, like, it is a war and it is an invasion, and it feels like it's a little more glib, like...
I see what you mean. It does... It's a bit of... It's slightly amusing, but on the other hand, it does kind of ignore quite a lot... I mean, we're not expecting him to go into the horrors of war, but kind of just goes,
Yeah. I mean, there are places where it is kind of daily life to have, like, fighting stuff around and people learn to live with it. So I guess it might be a comment on that, but it just seemed a bit kind of throwaway. I think it was mostly just to introduce Labiolus as Rincewind's ancestor and get them sort of into Troy and have Eric see that Eleanor is actually somebody who looks more like his mum than his, Vision. And then Rincewind lies Labiolus about how quick it'll be to get home.
Yes.
And they're a bit like, but the Odyssey. And then later when they meet in Hell, he's like real pissed off about that.
Which is fair.
And then I suppose we should talk about the Hell bit, really, shouldn't we? Which is kind of the main other bit.
Well, I thought if we do the last. So the last wish is to live forever. So finally, Rincewind snaps his
Fingers.
Snaps his fingers. I have no idea where I was going. Well,
it's like you're saying rings.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just magic rings. And Rincewind snaps his fingers and finds them at the outside of time before creation.
I thought it was a sign that things were cyclical, because you have... it's the end of the... Well, I suppose living forever is you go from the beginning to the end of the universe, or the end to the beginning, because Death's kind of there looking a bit bored and stuff, and then suddenly a paperclip appears, and I was like, oh god, it's Clippy, how is it there?
Clippy, yes.
So Pratchett has a joke about how... matter isn't little like particles or atoms or things. It's actually stuff like paper clips and shirt buttons and like bits of packaging. It's just the idea that anytime you look somewhere, all this stuff is there, and like, this, no one puts this here. Where's it come from? It's just stuff.
Yeah.
Although, again, I did think of Clippy. I noticed he mentioned something about anyone who's tried to open a drawer and found a fish slice in there that could not have been in there in any way.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, the seed of Anoia, who will become a cool goddess later, but I think that's in a bit.
In a bit, yes.
It's not until the Tiffany Aching stuff, is it?
Anyway.
But yes, so that's the thing about the fish slice getting caught in the drawer, and it's like, well, the fish slice must have materialised there, because there's no way it could be in there, stopping you opening the drawer.
But I think the idea is that you have to to live forever. You have to start at the beginning of time, and then you have to go to the end of time.
But what they do is they're at the end of time. Everything wraps up. Death's a bit bored there. Then the paperclip appears, and he's like, "Oh, well, eventually this will turn into life."
No, they're at the beginning of time because the demon king goes to the end of time.
Oh yeah,
because he goes because they meet the creator.
Well, yes, I thought we were getting, but I thought he kind of appeared. I thought it was like a cycle.
No,
did I misread that?
No, I think you misread that. The whole point is they turned up, and the creator it starts.
But I got the sense it was cyclical because Death was there. He's done everything. It's kind of that whole, putting the chairs on the tables, turning out the lights at the end of the universe thing, which is, a Death thing.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I think,
but then he's just like nothing to do, and then the paperclip appears, and he's like, well, with a bit of patience, which he has, it'll become something else. So I took that to be a cycle. Yes,
but I think the whole point was for Rincewind and Eric, they appear at the start of time.
Sure. Yeah, they do meet the creator. So that bit felt very kind of Slarty Bartfast from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Because that came out quite a bit earlier, didn't it? Did it?
Yes, but I mean, it's a... I'm sure they knew each other.
Oh yeah, quite possibly.
So yeah, that is very.
I'll find the picture of the creator.
And it's so you get this bit where where they've created, reality is created.
There's a picture of him, isn't there? Yeah. Because it's kind of like a cycle, because the Demon King's there and the paper clips and the luggage, and then
certainly it can be
Vincent and Eric, and then and Death's sort of there. He looks like he's finished, and it's like, oh no, actually, it's going to go round again.
But I think still the point is that from the Eric that they end up, because the Demon King who pops up has to go back through time.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so they meet the creator who's sitting on a book, but he's just a creator, not the creator, so he deals with certain things, and you get this idea of this whole, again, it's very Hitchhiker's, the worlds are being made and he's just part of the process, because he's very pleased with like snowflakes and different things, and it's also something fiddly they like Slatty Barfast, like the fjords. But yes,
so they meet the creator, they find they get brought to the Discworld.
They end up on some primordial beach.
Yes, they get an Onion Crest sandwich from the creator.
A load of, and then that ends up being the thing that kickstarts life, doesn't it?
Yeah. The creator mislays its book, which is
yes, yes,
important for later, for earlier stuff.
Earlier / later.
Yes.
See, it's all a big cycle.
It is. Well, yes, yeah.
So we should probably talk about the whole bit now, since we mentioned Demon King, whose name is Astfagel. There aren't enough vowels in there.
Yeah, it's
Astfagel. Anyway,
we'll go with that.
He is the Demon King. It's sort of explained that, I guess, as well as the Discworld having its own kind of celestial thing full of gods who we hear a bit about, only a bit so far. It's mostly just the gods.
Yes, we don't really.
Other than, I guess, the bits in Colour of Magic.
Yeah.
There's also a hell, which again is the one that belongs to Discworld, and again it said the thing about how gods and demons are the same thing but sort of different, it's different groups. And so the Discworld hell, again, it takes a lot from the kind of classical hell, which I suppose, again, I'm sort of thinking stuff like Dante, and again it's probably from Faust, and you also think of stuff like Hieronymus Bosch and stuff, as well as also the more classical underworld rather than hell ideas of like Sisyphus and that sort of stuff. So it's kind of this amalgamation of these things. And again, it's kind of the idea that it's the afterlife, but he does that thing, which I think he mentions elsewhere, that what you believe is going to happen is what happens. And so a lot of people are being punished just because they believe they are. But what it is, so you've got Asphagul, who's recently become Demon King, and again, it reminded me a little bit of like Fantastic, where you've got this guy who's gotten in charge, and he's very corporate, and he's very efficiency and modernising, and there's a lot of what I think were at the time office stuffs, like potted plants and memos.
Very much a 90s office environment. You know, from the fidget toys on the desk.
Well, they weren't called fidget toys then; it was just executive toys.
Yes, but still, you know,
the little marbles.
Yeah, the marbles. And you know, memos and the corporate, just the general corporate feel to it. Which I think it represents hell quite well in some respects, because it would feel hellish.
Well, that's the point, because even the demons hate it.
But
as well.
Yeah, but the point is that it's so hellish that the demons hate it, because there's only so many memos, and
Well, I think Asphagul is trying to improve things, and so he had a demon who's supposed to go and get Eric, because Eric is somebody they were looking at. Eric's grandfather was a demonologist, which is why all the stuff's in the attic. And one bit I noticed was that, so it's quite an odd when Rincewind goes through the portal instead. And he thinks to himself, hell needed horribly bright, self-centered people like Eric. Which just made me think of, like, I don't know, Silicon Valley?
I mean, yeah.
Although I don't think those guys are as bright as they've convinced many people they are. But
some are.
Certainly,
they usually tend to be the engineers.
But a horribly self-centered thing sounds very much like far too many things nowadays. But yeah, and then you've got the old guard of demons who want to do things the traditional way, and Asphagul doesn't like them, but because he's become Demon King, somehow they're kind of sucking up to him, but also secretly plotting. And the thing that he's done is he's made the tortures in hell tortures for the soul rather than tortures for, I say, the body. I suppose that the point is they're all dead souls, they don't have bodies anymore. Like, one of the whole things obviously with death's function is they're not, the soul is loose of the body, and they almost start to forget what it's like to be alive. And so in the traditional version you've got the Hieronymus Bosch type tortures, you've got the classical like Sisyphus type tortures happening, and demons are overseeing it, and the demons are torturing people, and they're all enjoying it. I say enjoying it. The demons enjoy it, and the damned just kind of go along with it, because after a while they don't really feel it. But it's what everyone's expecting. And then this guy comes along and goes, "No, stop doing that." And so the tortures are more. Well, it's interesting. It made me think of The Good Place a bit. Which, spoiler warning: if you haven't seen The Good Place,
go watch it.
Yes,
but not. Pause this. Go watch the entirety of The Good Place and then come back.
Well, unless you're able to binge, it might take a while. You have to watch at least all of season 1 to the end. But yes, that. So if you don't know the twist for the first season of The Good Place, maybe go forward a minute or two. But in that, where it's a bit like, we're going to do a new type of torture, and the demon's like, but we just want to fill people with bees. Or or flatten them, or like stuff them with sausages. And then Michael's like, no, we're going to do a different kind of torture. We're going to torture them emotionally. And that was quite interesting, effective, and obviously that's the whole point of that. But it's that Asphagul has set up a thing where, the Sisyphean task is not rolling a rock up the hill and going down, which actually everyone was sort of enjoying. You could see people who'd say hi on the way up, and or the eagle pecking out the liver, where they'd have a bit of a chat. Now it's, the demon has to read through all the rules and regs, including all the sub-clauses.
Unhealthy and unsafety regulations governing the lifting and moving of large objects. Volume 93 of the commentaries, in fact. The regulations themselves comprise a further 1,440 volumes. Part 1, that is. Yes.
So, which kind of reminds me of the fact that the least manual handling job I ever had made me do an e-learning module on lifting and carrying, and I was there like, I used to work in a library. And
we don't do manual. I've had a manual handling training. I sat and watched it on a computer.
Yeah, but that was pretty after I left.
Yeah,
because I didn't have to do it. I had to do it in my office job, where I discovered that if I don't have a job where I walk around a lot, I'm incredibly unhealthy.
Anyway,
but yes, so it's just. So the Demon Kings change stuff, and there's lots of stuff about potted plants and things like that. So what the sort of old style, I guess, demon nobility, the Lords of Hell, are doing is they're sort of trying to oust him, and it turns out that one of them, whose name I forget, has arranged for Rincewind to go through and is using them as a distraction, because the Demon King's so determined to find out what's happening with Rincewind and Eric that he's following them. And then there's one bit where they're in hell and they're on like a big hamster wheel thing that people are pushing around, and then it comes loose and they end up barreling through hell. That's where they meet Labiolus, who's really pissed off. They told him, "Oh, you'll get home fine."
He does, just after 10 years.
Yeah. And yes, it's sort of coming to a head, and then the end bit's kind of weird. Like, you think, oh, they're going to coup against him, they're going to do a thing, and then they come up with something that's supposed to be, we came up with the idea from the humans, we copied them, which, again, quite good omens to an extent.
Yes.
The amount of things that Crowley will be like, yes, that was me.
Yes, that was us.
Yeah.
We definitely did that.
Yeah. It's like, Hieronymus Bosch, what a weirdo.
They basically promote him promote him high enough that he's...
Well, they make him president rather than king.
Yes.
And then they put him in his own little place, which is just basically seems to be some sort of like shag carpeted potted plant office, and give him loads and loads of reports to look through, and then and they're a bit like, oh, it's so evil, but they just put him kind of where he almost wants to be, like just doing a lot of admin and businessy stuff. And I think there was a carpet people reference in there because it said something about the shag will be so thick that
it can accommodate whole tribes of pygmies wondering are wondering why the light stays on at night. So
so I think the idea is they've just done that thing where somebody's an annoyance in the chain of commands, so they sort of shuffle them to the side with a fancy title, give them some busy work, and then just get on with how things are meant to be.
Basically analysing things, and it's basically the overall planning, the forward thinking, the analysing projects, and
just send memo after memo that no one ever reads or does anything about. Which, I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, Pratchett is very much kind of railing against or doing a parody of, like, kind of, as you say, 90s Office, very corporate stuff. But I feel like that kind of thing's only increased now. And, it's interesting. Like, there's a lot of stuff about, like, how useful MBA people are in businesses. Like, are they actually useful, or is the whole thing to make themselves seem useful? Or, which I've seen different discussions on. But, so that's...
Yeah, and Rincewind and Eric find their way home. And there's Rincewind's thing about boredom, like how he feels like he keeps saying like a lot of his life's been too interesting, and it makes you think, was there loads of stuff before Colour of Magic? Maybe there was. He must have started running away from something. And he sort of thinks about how much he cherishes boredom because at least it means that he's safe and fine. Which again I think is interesting. I think a lot of people, we want excitement. It's like, what kind of excitement? Because like too much is like not great. But I feel like that's kind of all we've got. I think. Did you have any highlights? Do you think there were any highlights to this?
I mean, I think I read out some bits, and that's the stuff I remembered.
I don't think there's... I mean, it is a very forgettable story, I think.
Yes. I mean, it's a load of sketches that are kind of held together on the sort of structure of Faust. It gets Rincewind back into the Discworld. And, there's some funny bits in. I wouldn't suggest starting here.
Oh, no.
Although Al Kennedy, who did Desert Island Discworld... he did start there, so clearly it's possible.
I mean,
to
go on and do a significant podcast on the show on it.
It's not like he read Eric and then did the podcast.
I don't know what I mean, but obviously then went on. It's.
No, he's a Pratchett fan. See, and now we've done this. I can listen to their Eric episode because that's when they had people from other Discworld podcasts, including Pratchett, who very kindly followed us on Facebook and said some encouraging things. And also recently, I listened to bits of The Truth Shall Make You Fret, which again is another Discworld podcast. Although actually, I think a lot of them are doing not just Discworld; they're doing a lot of Pratchett stuff. Pratchett to try and do all the Pratchett stuff. But I think they go into a lot more detail than we do.
We're talking about our dining table. We have a format. So it's waffling.
And also fitting in of an evening between like working and parenting and sleeping.
Yes. Those are all important things as well.
Yeah.
But so yes, I think we are very much. I think if you like the Rincewind stories, you kind of have to read this one to kind of know. Although I say that once we get this is the thing when we read. And I'm now having to.
What's the next Rincewind? Is it Interesting Times? Or... I don't remember what order they're in.
Oh, it would be Interesting Times. That's quite a way, actually.
This is the thing. There's quite a big gap before you get a lot more Rincewind, I think, because the wizard stuff builds up in other stuff, like obviously moving pictures and
bit in Reaper Man.
Yeah. So I think, because then I think Rincewind almost comes back with the wizard ensemble about as well.
Yeah, I think it's not until we're a while. So yeah, but we'll find out whether you actually need to read Rincewind, this one, for Rincewind stories.
I think Rincewind's a very crap wizard who runs away from things.
I mean, him just turning up, I think is.
Yeah, I don't know how much more you need.
I mean, and somehow Rincewind returned. It's actually not unreasonable.
No.
So yes, don't start with it. I mean, find a copy with the illustrations if you're going to read it, because I think that adds. It was always designed to have the illustrations.
Yeah, and I mean, they're a sort of interesting, add a bit of liveliness to it, and yeah, you can sort of see. I
mean, more of Josh Kirby's work is always nice. But other than that, I think we'll just move on to moving pictures.
Yeah. Did we want to any podcast housekeeping now?
We could do.
I feel like everything else is going to be a longer conversation because the episode's getting longer each time. I feel like this will be a short one in there.
You can find us on Facebook. We are at Dining Table Discworld. So please do follow us on that. We do throw some more stuff up, and if we get enough people on there, we can start chats and other interesting things.
Yes.
You can find us on BlueSky at Dining Table Discworld.
It's DT Discworld.
Oh, DT Discworld. Okay, yes, because I couldn't get the whole thing on the...
Do you want to start that bit again?
You can find us on BlueSky at DT Discworld. I'll put all of this in the show notes if you don't remember. But yes, we are over there. We post things when we remember. We will get better at this, I'm sure.
I do post things every so often. I share quite a lot of other Discordy things on there.
If you are, if you could give us, as they say, rate and review us.
Yes, we've had a couple of nice ratings, but no one's said anything words.
Please say nice things.
We like words, yes.
Please say nice things. Constructive feedback is accepted.
Also, because we're on YouTube as well.
We will be doing. I will be transferring these onto YouTube.
Okay. I couldn't remember what we got to with that.
Still working on that a little bit.
I know Google sent an email saying Google Podcasts are going away and you can go on YouTube, and I was like, okay, I don't think I'm using Google Podcasts.
No, I need to work on that. That's part of the.
I think a lot of podcasts are going onto YouTube more because of.
I deal with the technical side, so that's my next check is what is going on with that, and can I then make use of YouTube better? But yes.
Well, we can add that to the outro once you sort it out.
Yes, and if you have any, as I say, feedback or anything you'd like to hear us natter on about, please do get back. We also have a Gmail account, Dining Table Discworld, at gmail.com. So if you have any suggestions of content we could cover,
we do have various Discworld DVDs.
Yes, I mean we have all of the TV show.
Well, not the watch.
Yes, but I was going to say, except for the watch.
But that is on iPlayer, which we do also have. Yes,
I mean, if we can get enough, if there was enough interest, we would be willing to watch least the watch.
Who watches the watch?
And
that's also a Discord, I think, podcast as well.
And give our and discuss this, and we might even get guests on to help us with that. So
we're just trying to think of friends we can vaguely torch.
Yes, I'm basically thinking of people we can get to make watch the watch with us, because if we've got to watch it, then we're going to make other people do it too.
Misery loves company.
Exactly. But we can also talk about the Discworld computer games. Well, I can.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've not played it. I remember in the kind of earlier days of the internet when you'd go on through dial-up, and after all, my parents were a bit like, people on the phone are showing allowed on at these times. I found, what was it, the Discworld Mud?
Yes, I never did the Discworld Mud, but that was massive at the time.
What did Mud stand for again? Multi-user something?
Yeah, multi-user dungeon, I believe, because obviously it was. I mean, I could be wrong because I never really did them, but it was a big thing. I
found it. And I kind of looked at it for a while, and I tried to use it, but I didn't kind of understand it enough to really get into it, and I kind of bounced off of it a bit.
Very, very old school MMOs.
Oh yeah, well, it's all text based,
yeah,
wasn't it? So
yeah, no, but those were huge at the time. So hats off to anyone who got involved with those, because I did not understand those at all.
Yeah. Also, I suppose theoretically we could offer people pictures of the various Discordy things we have.
Yeah, I mean,
in the house.
I think we put those on Facebook. You know.
I mean, well, so when this comes out, I'll already have done the Guards episode, but I do have a picture of Errol that I was going to put up. We should probably do some more colouring in this. We have the Discord colouring book, and that's the main page we've done because you'd photocopied it.
I did a librarian.
Oh yeah.
Don't know where it is, but I did the librarian.
Well, you need to find it.
Yeah, okay, I need to find it.
We have a kid and we have recycled a lot of paper and colouring.
Fair enough. I
think, didn't you also do an eater of socks as well? It's like an elephant with like a red trunk.
Oh no, I did the eater of socks.
I think we gave the librarian picture to the boy.
Yes, okay. So I did an eater of socks, yes.
But we could do the actual colouring book rather than photocopies.
I also have various miniatures I've painted over the years of Discord stuff, which are...
Yes, Dave does a lot of miniature painting and is pretty good at it, so
I'm okay at it. But we did have 2 Discworld related cake toppers that I painted for our wedding, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have any other random things to waffle on about?
Not especially, no. I think I just wanted to sort of do a bit of podcasty.
That's fair enough.
Talking,
we'll stick.
It's a short episode. It's like with the various history podcasts I listen to when they're like, "Well, this king was there hardly any time, and then he died," and it's like, so now we'll do a quiz or something. Should we do a quiz at some point?
We could always do a quiz at some point.
You know what, people, if you want the stuff, you just need to get involved and tell us. It doesn't have to be a lot of involvement because we're not overly blessed with time, but but a little bit of encouragement and we'll probably be quite easily swayed.
Yeah, exactly. We're simple people. just knowing people are actually listening is it would be nice.
Well, we've seen there's a lot of people here. There's some people in the US and Australia. There's a few people in Scandinavia.
We've had at least one download from Canada. Hello, whoever was listening in Canada.
You just said it like calendar.
Yeah, I know I did.
Do you want to say again pronouncing Canada correctly?
We've had one download from someone in Canada, so hello to you in Canada.
I don't know how you tell how many downloads are real and how many are bots or whatever.
I don't know.
Bots do that?
I'm taking whatever we can get at the moment.
I think just one has to be suspicious of anything from Russia, but otherwise...
Yeah. I mean, they could be Discord fans in Russia.
That's true, they probably are Discord fans in Russia.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. And a couple of people have given us nice ratings on Apple Podcasts, but you can, I think, do it on any podcast platform that does ratings.
Yeah, Podbean, it takes them. Apple.
I really should look if my podcast app does that.
YouTube.
I listen to a lot.
Fun. So anyway,
I thought we were getting to YouTube, but weren't there yet.
We're technically on YouTube, but there's nothing useful on it.
Oh, actually, some I think somebody subscribed.
Excellent.
So we should probably put something on there. We should
put more. Yes.
Thank you very much, listeners.
Yeah, if you to those of you who are listening, thank you very much.
We do appreciate it.
You know, we do this for fun. I mean, we'd be reading the books anyway, but this is it'd be.
I think it gives us a structure to keep doing it and keep going and all that. Also, when we get our Discworld shelf set up, we can take pictures of the Discworld shelf.
Yes,
but we need to put the shelf in the wall now that we have the shelf.
Okay, I think that's. Yes. So, thank you all very much for listening.
Yes, thank you. We hope you will continue.
And we will see you all next time for book number 10. I mean, it's like, wow, we're a percentage through now.
There's less than 100, so we're a percentage.
Yeah, okay, but, there's 41 on the list, so it's 10.
Yeah, so it's like nearly a quarter.
Yeah.
You said a percentage.
Well, a quarter is a percentage. I didn't say a percentage 25%. Point.
I know, that's what confused me. Okay. We're about a quarter through, unless we decide to do any extra stuff.
And depends on whether my list includes... it does include the Tiffany Aiken stuff. So.
Oh, no, yeah, obviously Tiffany Aiken, Educated Morris.
It's just more a case does my list include it, not so much whether we were not going to. So yes, 41 is the total. Okay. Anyway, thank you all very much for listening.
Thank you.
I will also see you next time for some moving pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening to Dining Table Discworld. You can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Dining Table Discworld. You can also find us on BlueSky at dtdiscworld. All our other contact information and credits for our music can be found in our show notes. Thank you for listening again, and we'll see you in our next episode.